Hello, everybody. Are y'all here for security mind expansion? I am. Y'all ready for this? All right. So, like I said, title of this is Security Mind Expansion. I am Chandos Carrow. That's also my Twitter handle. Yes, I'm very unique. Use my full name. I have my Master's of Science in Information Systems from BCU, and also have my CISSP. And I am the Virginia Department of Health's Information Security Officer. So, I wanted to call this a different title, but it kind of got overplayed. I really wanted to call it Security Mind Explosion, but mind explosions are everywhere. It's like, ooh, explode your mind. So I kept with Security Mind Expansion. So what I want to tell you a little bit about myself first, a little bit about my journey. So I am a student of cultures, religions, and life in general, not related to security. I love learning about people. I love learning about different religions, different aspects on life. And what I found out is there's no standard approach to anything, right? Everyone does their things in their own way. We know in anything in Microsoft, there's always multiple ways of doing something. So that's just life in general. Everyone has their own way, their own ways of thinking. And so I'm not here to change your way of thinking. I'm just here to help you expand your mind a little bit on what you actually could do yourself. So everyone does have different perspectives. So along this journey, I studied different philosophies, all the standard Greek philosophers and all that. But there's this one guy has been one of my people I've been following quite a bit recently. Does anyone know who that is? No one? All right. How many people watch Nat Geo? All right. Has anyone seen the game or the show Brain Games? Yeah. Now you know who he is? His name's Jason Silva. So I don't know if he classifies himself as a modern philosopher, but I do. And so I originally saw him on Brain Games, and his stuff is just amazing on that show. So he also created this YouTube series called Shots of Awe, right? So all these things that he talks about is supposed to be awe-inspiring moments. Like, that's amazing, I never thought about that. It's different perspectives on things. So one thing he talked about actually is when someone's up here giving a presentation or speaking with you, the goal of that is to actually create what's called a neural coupling experience. So pretty much my voice is resonating through this hall into your brains at that same frequency. So it's trying to convert your brain into that same frequency for you to actually understand and learn what I'm talking about. And we're going to have brain coupling. Pretty cool, right? So, one of the things that was identified in my presentation or in the description was this word ontological design. How many of you actually know what ontological design is? One? All right. So the best definition I found is from this guy, Kosaka Bradenton. And it says, just as you grow into the world grows into you. Not only do you occupy a certain place, but that place in turn occupies you. Its culture shapes the way that you see the world. Its language informs the way you think. Its customs structure you as a social being. So pretty in-depth, right? Pretty wide-spanning there. So I was like, how does that apply to security? So in security, we have a bunch of tools. We have our toolboxes, right? So the tools that we design and use for information security shapes us and how we perceive and interact with information security. Then, of course, also in security, we have our policies, standards, guideline procedures, all that boring documentation that no one likes reading. But those in information security will create and follow the change, the implementation of information security in our environments, right? So we got tools, we got policies. So the question is, from an ontological perspective, are those changes in interactions or perceptions of information security due to our current tools and edicts making us more secure? Or is it not? So I think it's not. So we've been doing security now for a couple of decades, and we still have a lot of problems. So what is the solution to those problems? I don't have a solution. I'm just here to come help you build your brain to create those solutions yourselves. But looking at it for myself and looking at the philosophy I've already talked about and looked at myself, I was like, well, there is an aspect that might help us, and that's to improve security with the looking glass self perspective. So this was in a book called Looking Glass Self, Empirical Test and Elaboration, written by Kin Tu Young and John Levy Martin. And they had three concepts. We imagine how we must appear to others. We imagine and react to what we feel their judgment of that appearance must be. And we develop ourself through the judgment of others, right? So basically, that's once again looking at different perspectives, right? All security is how is your perspective on that security? So that's a little bit long to say, So I found another quote that I think is a little bit better. I am not who you think I am. I am not who I think I am. I am who I think you think I am. And that's by Thomas Cooley. So a little bit confusing there at the end. So let me break it down a little bit for you guys. So first, I am not who you think I am. So I am a nerd, after all. So I love comics. And so we all know the Joker, right? And so people look at the Joker, he's the bad guy, he's, evil and all that. But he does a lot of good. Without him, Batman wouldn't be Batman, right? And also, by the way, the best Joker ever is Mark Hamill, just saying. That's one that I love the most. But the other ones are definitely great as well. So, but not just to talk about what people think is evil in that perspective, we also got to talk about the good. And Batman's not always good, He is a vigilante, breaking the laws, doing what he does. And sometimes in different versions, he is chaotic evil. But also times he's lawful good. So you got to take what other people are looking at you and figure out if that's what you want them to know about you. So I am not who I think I am. So looking in the mirror, sometimes we don't, that reflection's not what we actually think about ourselves. So you got to kind of, change that perspective as well. And then I am who I think you think I am. So we all kind of face that in our daily lives, right? So imagine this as yourself. I always just think about myself here. And it's like my parents think of me as an angel. We'll see about that. How my girlfriend sees me, strong and masculine and all that. How my older brothers see me, all weak and stuff. Not anymore, I kind of tower over them now, but, and then how my ex-girlfriend sees me, the devil with the horns there. That one may actually be accurate there. But, so when I interact with my parents, I am the angel to them. I pretend to be the angel for them, right? When I'm interacting with my girlfriend, if I had one, but it's, I'm the strong guy, I'm her protector, I'm there for her, right? My older brothers, I'm going, be a little bit weaker because I respect their knowledge they had being here on Earth longer than I have. And then, yes, to my ex, I might be a little bit evil. So in this, we're talking about just perspectives of yourself here, but if you apply this to security, right, apply it to your company, the image of your company comes from what you think your customers think of you, right? It is what you think your customer's perspective is that drives your company. So I think this is an exercise that every company should do internally and externally. So you talk to your internal staff and figure out what they think of your company. You go talk to your customers, you figure out what their perspective of your company is. And if that's not the perspective that you want, then change it, right? So apply that to security. Go talk to your customers, right? You got to figure out, is this security program that we built what you want? Or is it their perspective actually accurate of how you think the program's going, right? So you got to look at different perspectives. So how do we get different perspectives? Sorry, I went ahead myself, as always. So, so you got to look at different perspectives, like I said. Apply that to your security program, and apply that to your image. But yes, so back to my original question. How do we get there, right? How do we get that information from people? I think the best way is feedback loops. And so you have your internal and external, and your feedback comes from all of them, and just continue going, right? And so this feedback could be surveys, it could be communications, it could be a lot of things. But what the feedback loop provides you is and to your customers, is a co-authoring experience. So these people now feel that you got their opinion, that secure program is theirs. Like, I helped build this. It's mine, It helps them realize that, okay, we talked about this policy, we think it needs to change a little bit, they changed it, and now it's what we want it to be, and so let's go actually do it. So it allows the people to sculpt and mold what they want to experience. And the nice thing about feedback loops is that they're self-amplifying, right? So you do your first round of feedback, you get a little bit of information, you fix that information, you come back again, ask those questions, you get more information, you go back again, and it keeps on building and building and building. So with all that building, hopefully you're building in the right way to where you get optimism, right? Security programs aren't bad, security programs are needed. This is what we want. You got that optimistic viewpoint because your customers are building that security program themselves. They're involved in that process. But you all might be like, oh, Chandos, we had 0 time on our hands. I get it. I had 0 time too. I am an ISO. I got to go to meeting after meeting. I got to check all my emails. I'm sitting here at this conference. I'm still working. I'm still trying to do everything. But, it's a lot of stuff that we got to do, especially since security is always underfunded, understaffed, all those problems, right? So it does take time. But the part of building that optimism, that feedback loop, that joint venture of building the program will actually hopefully say to the business, oh wait, since we're doing this program now together, we could give them more resources to do what we want them to do. So you got to find some time, some of our most important resource to do this stuff. So how do you do that? My answer is a flow state. So imagine yourself, you're rushing down this river in this kayak, and you got boulders on your left, boulders on your right, you got a 50-foot waterfall ahead. Are you thinking about work? Are you thinking about what you're going to have for dinner that night? Are you, man, I'm upset at Carl for doing that one thing to me like 4 years ago? No. You are focused. You're in a flow state. You are going down this thing and hoping you're not going to die, right? You got to get into that flow state. You got to get to that nirvana in a way of I could do more things with the time I have because I'm more effective at it, right? So another perspective is Usain Bolt. You know, one of I think they call him the fastest man on earth now, but he's super fast, right? No one could catch him at this point in time. But do you think Usain Bolt's thinking about what he's going to have for lunch, or what he's going to do with this next gold medal, or anything like that when he's running? No, he's focused. He's in that flow state. That's his job. You know, he has to get focused. But I always love the fact with him is that he always looks back and looks at his competitors when he's near the finish line, and he doesn't even try for the last couple steps. That's how fast that guy is. Like, I don't even need to try for the last couple steps. I got this. That's incredible. So let's apply this to security. How do we get into our flow state in security? So one of my biggest headaches is standards, of course, and regulations that we had to follow. They are a mile long and like 10 miles deep. They're incredible, right? So I need to figure out a way to make our standards more efficient. You know, I don't know best way at that point yet, but I always feel I'm in the catch-up game, right? Because I've been focusing on this one control group, now I got the next control group, and then I got to go back and start all over again, right? So it's always a catch-up game. So this is where the self-reinforcing feedback loops could actually help with that, and you could build it into those programs and help build it out. And then eventually you get to this natural emergence point, and then everything just flows. And one of the things I also face that interrupts my flow state, I'm sure a lot of you also have it, menial task. I love just memes of that. That's just hilarious. So that's so exciting. Tell me more about your menial task. So some of the menial tasks I know I face is like access control. I got to review the submission from this manager. Yes, they should have access to that. Now I got to send it to someone else, get that actually accomplished, and then tell the user it's done, and then they go test it. It's a menial task, right? It could be automated. So automating is great. There was a talk about it yesterday about automating security. Definitely that will help us remove some of our menial tasks, some of the things that take up too much of our time that doesn't have a good ending, right? Doesn't do much for us in a grand scheme of things. So looking at some of these other things, we need to help rebuild our image in security, right? So this is part of designing a program efficiently. So it's designing stuff from within for without. So creative and linguistic choices transform our minds from within, of which we experience from without ultimately influences us from within. And everything is done in circularity. Our actions we do and the choices we make today matter. So you might think that writing a security standard in a way doesn't really affect anything, right? But using language that is not creative, is not thought-provoking, just that boring language that NIST has, is not going to be effective. People aren't going to pay attention to it. So you, as a security professional, should be thinking of ways how to make what people have to do more creative or more thought-provoking, easier to read maybe. Another thing is, when we upgrade things, we must realize that everything that we are designing is designing us back. So just from the way you are, how a website looks, right? That in turn is showing us how, or is affecting us in what we build next time. I noticed at my agency that a lot of the things that we're designing in the past look like the things we're designing now. It's like, why does that look the same? That's like 20 years old. You need to do new stuff. You need to have more thought-provoking, more action, more like fun stuff in it. And it's just not affecting us now and what we design and build. It's going to affect what comes in the next generation, right? Because there's going to be things that live around for a long time after we're gone, and the next generation is going to see them. So you need to make them better. Some of these things, of course, are our policies and standards, guidelines, procedures, and regulations that I already talked about. They're boring. So if I think they're boring, what do you think everyone else thinks they are? Just the standard users. They're going to find it boring. My biggest grief is also the media and news reports. How many times do we see, hey, there's another hack that happened, another billion accounts, all their passwords gone away. Happens every single week, right? It seems like now. So if you were a student nowadays, coming from high school, going to college, right? And you're trying to select your major. And you see all these news reports about security being, like, not working because everyone's breaking into stuff and hacking into stuff. Would you want to go into security if you know that, hey, you're going to get hacked one day and you're going to lose your job over it, possibly? Would you want to go do security if you saw these news reports? So if we could spin the news reports in a different way, you know, it's kind of hard to tell the national media to, hey, why don't you talk about all the good that security does? Like, hey, come look at this conference. How many more people are coming to this conference from 8 years ago, you know? It's, you know, we're a group of people, and, you know, we're trying to do good based on security. So if we can't really control the national media, start locally. Start with how your company or agency displays or talks about security internally, right? I think we've done a great job of that at VDH, where we send out a weekly security tip about security to our users. And it talks about good things that they could do in security, both internally and externally. And there are people that come up to us like, wow, these are so much better than they used to be, and we're learning a whole lot more from them. Because it's that change of how they're displayed, how they're functioning, what information they're providing out. So do it locally, and then, you know, as close as you can. But if you have influences elsewhere and you could try to get higher up from your organization to like regional or anything like that, talk about security, do it. Put a good spin on security. That's what we need. And once again, application and systems. Some of the old ones need to go away for new ones could be built to inspire people. Talking about inspiring people, talking about inspiring things and actions. I went to my first the first ISC Squared Congress down in Orlando, Florida, back when I first got into security, 10 years ago or more now. And this guy spoke at that conference. Can anyone tell me who that is? No? No one? Who? No one? All right. His name is Bert Rutan. And you may not know who he is, but a good hint of who he is right behind him. It's a little bit blurry. He was the one that actually designed the Virgin Galactic 1, the one that the privatization ship that went into space. He was the one that actually designed it. So his big thing, and yes, he focuses on aerospace engineering. I used to want to be a rocket scientist, went to school for it. So I kind of relate to what he's saying. But he said that we need to get more people interested in STEM, right? So the science to technology, engineering, mathematics, right? And he said back in the day, when the Saturn V rockets were launching us to the moon and to space, it was televised, right? It was a big occasion. Oh, kids, come in here, they're talking from us from the moon. That was a big thing. It involved technology and space, and it was amazing. And that inspired kids. So the kids that are growing up in the 70s, a lot of them are now in STEM because they saw this come on TV. Then, in the 80s and early 90s, we had the space shuttle. Same thing. There are big televised things about it, and it got people interested in security. I was one of those kids. That's why I wanted to do aerospace engineering, for I could work on a space shuttle. I wanted to fly one, but apparently I'm too tall. Yeah, that was a great one. But his thing is, now that NASA shut down, they're not doing any more missions really to space, maybe to send a couple things up. There's nothing else that's going to encourage people to get into STEM. So he thinks the privatization of space will help people want to get into STEM, right? So the SpaceX, right? How cool is it to see a space shuttle come launch off and then the fuselage actually come back and land itself? That is incredible. And I'm glad that they're putting that stuff on TV. So that gets people interested in engineering, space, things like that. So how can we do things to encourage those now generation to get into security later on? We need to market ourselves, right? We need to make ourselves better, have a better public image, have people go onto news programs and talk about security in a good way. Instead of, hey, that breach just happened. How did that occur? How is that going to affect me as a person, I'm tired of hearing the bad news. I want good news about security. So, yeah, I'll get off my soapbox on that one. So we want to help ourselves do a little bit better, right? So how many people remember when they were a kid? Right? How much fun did you have as a kid? A lot? Were you out there doing crazy stuff? I know I was. All right, fine, another question. How many people are having fun now? Well, yeah, right. In general, in your adulthood, how much fun are you actually having? Are we having fun in adulthood? Yeah, a little bit, maybe. We got boring jobs, we gotta go work and we gotta do all this. We are having fun because we're at a conference. We don't have to work right now. That's always fun. But, as a kid, we had cognitive play. We were able to go and just think, right? Imagine things. I remember I was in preschool and I took my red wagon, cut out some cardboard fins. Hey, look, now I'm flying an airplane, right? Or, I can't remember everything I did as a kid. But, there's a lot of things I did. A lot of things we all did. We had fun. We would climb into the castle over here and imagine us as the king of the castle, and other kids had to, take us off our throne. Crossing the moat because there's alligators down in the sand. I don't know what else I could think about on the slide there, but we imagined things. We were creative. We did fun. Why can't we do that nowadays? We should be able to have fun with what we do. We should be able to create and think of new ideas and new thoughts. So we need to get that cognitive play. I'm not saying go take your executives to a playground and run around and try to come up with ideas for security, but that would be really fun, though. If you do that, put that on YouTube. I would watch that, see executives in suits playing on a playground. But, we need to have fun with what we do. We need to enjoy it. We need to, play with it. We need to have fun. And that will help us with our cognitive abilities to think of new things. Well, I ran through this quickly. That's fine. So summarize things. I know I covered a lot of topics. So ontological design, what we design and build influences us back. If we take a look at the looking glass self, we could use that to improve security. We must look at things through other different perspectives, right? Through those different perspectives, we could use feedback loops and allow continuous change with more information. We could get into a flow, if we could get into it as a flow state, we could do better designs in our security practices. Reducing menial tasks will help us achieve that flow state. When we design new security practices, we must take in the perspective that what we design without will design us within. And cognitive play will allow creativity to flow. One of my favorite quotes is, our creative and linguistic choices govern our fate. I design, therefore I become. And this is by Jason Silva. So basically what he's saying is, what I am designing, this is me. This is my product. This is me. And I just love that fact. And to show a little bit of my nerdom, and also to close this up, in quantum mechanics, this experiment here is called the double slit experiment. And what they found out from it is that they had a hypothesis. They thought they got the right results, but it wasn't the right results, because what they found out is by simply observing a situation, it could change what occurs. That's incredible stuff to think about. So, any questions? Yes.
I appreciate everything that you've been saying, and it's a struggle for assurance and security people, particularly with IT people, and trying to promote the value of what we're doing. My question to you is, what have you personally done advice-wise when you sat in a room and they're like, we appreciate the value that we bring, but our systems are fine? Like, how do you get over that barrier to say, thank you for appreciating what I do, now let me actually do it for you? How do you deal with the dismissal?
So pretty much how, when people think that their systems are fine, but we know from in a security perspective that they're not meeting any of our standards, and they are a factor on risk factor that we need to control in some way. Okay, so I've had a lot of experience with this. I've had people yell and scream at me that they don't want to do something because it's too hard, or that doesn't make sense for my system, or no, that's actually a false positive on that scan. By the way, I hate false positives, or that term at least. So how I handle that, I don't know if it's something, why is that clicking ahead? All right, that's weird. Take that out of my pocket. So it's unique for each situation, right? So if I usually tend to move up the chain. So a lot of times when I'm dealing with a system owner, they'll be like on the manager level. I tend to go up to the director level, where I have a little bit more influence, because directors, have a little bit more power. So, and they're a little bit more reasonable sometimes. And so then if that doesn't work, there's always higher levels. But you gotta have proof. You gotta be able to prove that there's something wrong, a way with they're doing things. And just because audit says it's wrong or you're going to get finding from that really doesn't help a lot. But showing them, hey, look at what I could do, and here's the information I could steal from you if you just leave it like it is now, that usually gets more attention. But it's, you got to get the foot into the door first. You got to get, if they had a problem and are able to solve it for them, then they know, hey, he's actually trying to help us. Then, hey, when I come to you and say we need this done, then hopefully they're willing to help me, right? So it's a give and take. You got to play around with it. It's not one answer for everything for that type of situation. Yes. Right. Yeah, that's exactly right. So by using the feedback loops, I'm able to figure out how I need to change my language, my communication to certain people to get what I want out of it. So not everyone replies to, "Hey, this is going to cost us money," or "Hey, the standard says this." You got to look at how your reactions with them in the past or actions with them in the past, how they reacted to it, how they and if you change something then and it showed improvement, what else can you do to improve that language to get even better results next time? So it's that feedback loop. But like you said, it's also we need to receive that feedback loop and be willing to change ourselves. So I definitely agree with that. So any other questions? Yes. So, in my opinion, back in the day when security was first started, I actually got a question the other day. It's like, so how does an ISO compare now to an ISO 30 years ago? I was like, there's ISOs 30 years ago? It's because, it's a completely different world. But we still in security kind of think of ourselves as the wizards in the closet that come out when there's a problem. So back in the day with the help desk person, you call up help desk, and if they, how many times did you restart your machine or have you restart your machine was always a thing. And if there was a real problem, you would see a guy that looks like me, long beard, long hair, death metal shirt, shorts, and sandals, come up and move out on my way, and he fixed the problem, right? Kind of, I don't think security has grown out of that thought process. We come in and we look at security and we got to apply this, we got to apply that. No one else could do security because this is our job, right? I think we're still in that mindset. And I think that's kind of one of our problems also is that, we have also the problem where we only focus on security, right? We have a very macro level view of the world. And so if we take ourselves out the picture and take away from security and we look at everything from a macro level and see it from that 30,000 foot view, what is our organization doing? How is organization, why the organization does this? Why is users do this, right? We have to do security better by not trying to do security. Another way of saying that. So I think by doing a couple of those things, looking, I think we could get there. We can improve security. We can improve our posture of security, get our influence of security higher into the org chart, get more people involved in security. So I think that answers your question, roughly. I went tangents everywhere on that conversation. Any other questions? Yes.
Are you able to share any kind of current initiatives that you're dealing with or that are hot items for you that you're applying to you've got here?
So my organization is going through a very large change right now. So our CIO has retired. And there's a big gap to fill there. And so we also are, because we're a state agency, the governor has released his Executive Order 19 that states all state agencies must be in the cloud by December 2021, I believe. So there's a lot of things going on at once and a big push in changing technology, right? And especially if a new CIO comes in, they're going to have their own thoughts on how to run the technology. So we got to change our way of security on all that. So I don't have any initiatives at this point. I have a lot of ideas. For instance, right now I have like 50 file shares across the whole entire state in all of my locations. All right, great. I need to protect all those file shares, and a lot of them aren't being done in the right way, and I have a problem with that. And so if we're moving to the cloud and we need to get rid of these servers to move to the cloud, and if there's going to be new offerings in the cloud for file storage, such as using SharePoint, why don't we just take all of our file shares, move them into SharePoint? That way we also could look at all the security groups on all those folders, make sure that we have the proper owners, we have the proper members, we don't have duplicative information everywhere. Then we could use our identity access management tool and fill all that information in to have workflow built into approving all that. And then my menial task of, hey, I need folder access goes away. It's all workflow based. So there's going to be a lot of initiatives in the future in our organization because of all this changes. We also in the state have got a new multi-sourcing service integrator, and they brought, there's a bunch of other vendors underneath them, and so they're going to have a lot more tools and services that are going to become available here shortly that we haven't had access to in a while or ever. And so we're going to be able to use all these tools that we've been wanting to use for a while to start doing things properly. So more to see in the future. So I hope that helps. I know it really didn't answer the question, but you know, it's
Just interesting to hear what you've dealt with on a regular daily basis because, for me, I try to be open-minded, but what I find is a lot of times I'm moving just from one solution to the next solution. I
right.
may be solving it in a unique way to a way I was previously thinking, but I'm doing, I'm still using a lot of the same tools. Why? Because I'm still following a lot of the same standards
Right.
for control requirements, et cetera. So, really thinking out of the box is something that takes a lot of work, I feel.
Yeah, it definitely does. I I haven't been able to get new tools to play with because we do report to Vita. So now that new tools are coming in, then I could start requesting, hey, by the way, I heard about this tool and I want to use that now. Can you bring that in? And then I could improve all this other stuff. So we'll see. But I'm definitely don't want to do things the old way. I want to get to new ideas, new concepts. And if I come up with anything interesting, I'll definitely glad to come back and talk about this. So. Any other questions? All right. I want to say thank you to everyone for attending. It's one of those different concepts, so I know it might be a little bit strange, and I rushed through it. But I'm always willing, up to talking with everyone about anything about related to this or anything else. And a couple of things to come out with. If you haven't gone, go to YouTube, watch some Shots of All videos. They're great. They'll help expand your mind more. And in security, don't focus on the macro or the micro, focus on the macro. And thank you very much.